Howdy! Today we're going to look at how to measure your landscape to get started with our Southwood Sketches service. You'll need just a couple of things to get started. 1 or 2 tape measures about 25 to 35 feet long, a clipboard, pencil with eraser, and maybe some high visibility spray paint for marking. First, it always helps to get familiar with the area you're going to draw and measure. Make note of fences, existing beds, utility boxes, trees, anything that's staying put. Once you've looked over the space, start with a rough sketch of the fence line and bed line shape. Accuracy in this drawing is not as important as getting correct measurements, as those are eventually used to recreate the space either digitally or to scale on paper. Once we have the rough sketch, we can start measuring. First, get the length of the bed, then mark every 3 feet along the back of the fence line. This helps to keep measurements organized while also making it easier to recreate your space to scale later. If your garden has an L shape like this one, also be sure to measure 45 degrees from the inside corner of the fence to the edge of the bed line. Once we have these measurements written down, we can start measuring the width or depth of the bed. Starting past the corner area we already measured, measure from the fence line to the edge of the bed line at each 3-foot interval, making sure to mark correctly which interval you are measuring from. Here's a tip. If something like this tree intersects your 3-foot mark, document it by measuring how far it is both from the fence line and the bed line. At this point, your sketch should look something like this. As long as your measurements are within a few inches, the scale drawing that could be made from this will be accurate. We do the same thing for the other half of the fence line. Once we have the other side drawn and measured, we can start to locate features that will be kept through the design process. Sometimes it's more helpful to make your base measurements on one sheet and then utilities and other features on another. Just make sure you are measuring from the same starting and base points. Let's switch over to measuring a house with an existing bedline. Once we look over the area, we start to draw the house and mark out the windows with rectangle features and a triangle for doors that indicates the direction of the swing. Another tip, sometimes features like boulders get in the way of your measurement. If the curve of the bed line is hidden by features like this, imaginary lines can be visualized as a best guess to measure from. From there, we start to measure the house. We start at one edge and measure to the window, then the window itself, and then the rest of the house in the same way. After the house is drawn and measured, we repeat the process from before. Measure the depth of the bed at 3-foot intervals along the length of the space and measure 45 degrees from the corner of the house to the bed line. With that done, we measure utilities and other landscape features and are left with a drawing that conveys the layout with dimensions that can be used to produce an accurate scaled drawing. If you're measuring a house with no existing bed lines, it's even easier. Just measure along the foundation while including details such as windows, doors, and existing porches, walkways, etc. Once the landscape features and utilities are measured and marked, all that is needed is a lot of pictures. The best way to take pictures for this process is to walk in a straight line along the fence line and take a picture perpendicular to the face of the fence, taking a picture about every 5 feet, as well as pictures where you stay in line with a utility or landscape feature. And from that, we should be able to draw, accurately measure, and recreate to scale any landscape and house, coupled with good detailed photos to recreate it easily.